Let's get the record straight right now. Miss Crump fits my life perfectly, regardless of the age gap. Make no mistake about it. She is my girl. You are dangerously close to crossing a line here, friend. I will say it one more time for those in the back. That woman is mine. But what really happens when the private life of a squeaky clean television darling turns out to be more scandalous and gripping than any script writers could invent? Aneta Corsaut was so much more than just the prim and proper schoolteacher that millions of viewers fell in love with every week. When the cameras stopped rolling, she was entangled in a messy, complicated and hush-hush romance with none other than the show's biggest star, Andy Griffith. A saga of forbidden love and shattered hearts that fans are only just starting to piece together. Despite their wholesome public images, their illicit affair completely smashed the conservative rules of the time and pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable during Hollywood's golden age of television. How did this clandestine relationship hidden in plain sight irrevocably shape the destinies of both these television icons? And what kind of tragic legacy was left behind when Aneta's life was heartbreakingly cut short? Buckle up, because the secret romance starts right now. The electric connection between Aneta Corsaut and Andy Griffith went way deeper than their on-screen chemistry, weaving a tangled web of passion that stayed buried in the shadows for decades. While the rest of the world saw Helen Crump and Andy Taylor as the ultimate symbol of wholesome small-town love, behind the dressing room doors, these actors were engaged in a secret fling that would have shocked their adoring fan base. Here is the real kicker. When this steamy affair kicked off, Andy wasn't just a bachelor, he was 15 years deep into a marriage and a father to several children, making this a high-stakes betrayal. That inconvenient truth added a heavy layer of tension and danger to every stolen moment, forcing them into secrecy while simultaneously turning up the heat on their emotional investment. Even though Aneta wasn't the first beauty to play Andy's love interest on the series, everyone on set knew this vibe was entirely different. This wasn't just acting for the cameras. Their spark obliterated the lines of the script and bled heavily into their real-world feelings. Trying to keep a lid on a romance this intense proved nearly impossible, and the crew members working closest to the pair began to realise their rehearsals were about more than just lines. The set was absolutely buzzing with gossip and whispers with the crew, even pulling pranks that proved just how much everyone knew about their sneaking around. In one legendary behind-the-scenes story, the crew actually dressed up a young assistant as a waiter to crash their private party. His mission was to catch Andy and Aneta in the middle of a romantic rendezvous, a bold stunt that reportedly left the leading man fuming and humiliated. The blurring lines between their fictional affection and their real-life entanglement created a thick atmosphere of tension on set, but it also built a weird protective camaraderie backstage. While it was an open secret among the insiders, Aneta and Andy somehow managed to shield their private world from the ravenous press. Despite the massive risks to his career and reputation, Andy fell hard envisioning a permanent future with Aneta that went far beyond these fleeting, shadowed encounters. The obsession grew so strong that over time he actually got down on one knee and proposed marriage to Aneta on 3 separate occasions. This was a massive gamble, signalling that he was ready to blow up his life for her deeply committed, despite the chaotic complications it would cause. But here is the twist. Every single proposal was met with a firm no. Rumours have swirled for years that Aneta refused to be branded as a homewrecker or the other woman who destroyed a family. Their romance was a rollercoaster of burning passion and necessary restraint, destined never to have that fairy tale ending the audience wanted. Yet this forbidden love defined them both, lingering as a massive part of their personal history until Aneta sadly passed away in 1995. It wasn't just the sneaking around or the societal pressure that made this relationship a nightmare to navigate. The messy intertwining of their professional obligations and their personal desires created an incredibly fragile house of cards. They had to continue working side by side, playing lovers on screen while their off-screen heat intensified, making every single look and touch charged with unspoken heavy emotion. It became a delicate, torturous dance between burning desire and professional decorum, a mix of stolen kisses and staged embraces. This double life undeniably added a raw, authentic depth to their performances, but it also highlighted just how trapped they were in their situation. Millions of viewers cheered for the happy couple in Maybury, completely oblivious to the fact that the reality behind the curtain was far more intricate, painful and fragile. Their bond survived even though it never resulted in a wedding ring, and critics have long whispered that their real-life connection dictated the direction of the show's storylines. The undeniable warmth and sincerity Aneta poured into the role of Helen Crump made her character an unforgettable icon of television history. She provided the perfect grounded balance to Andy's stoic lawman character, anchoring the show's emotional core. That chemistry translated effortlessly through the lens, pulling viewers into a romance that felt believable precisely because it was rooted in truth. This unique cocktail of scripted fiction and messy reality left a permanent mark on the audience and everyone who worked on the production. However, the true depths of their private saga remained a hush-hush topic, mostly unspoken of for many, many years. Aneta's repeated decision to reject Andy's marriage proposals likely speaks to a fierce desire to protect her own identity and moral integrity. In fact, reports confirm she never married anyone during her entire lifetime, choosing a path of independence rather than settling into a complicated domestic situation. The exact reasons behind her refusals are a blend of tabloid speculation and a respectful nod to her private choices. Even after turning down the star's proposals, they maintained an incredibly close friendship that outlasted the affair, proving their bond was about more than just physical attraction. Their ability to navigate such emotional minefields and transition into a lifelong companionship speaks volumes about the mutual respect and love they held for one another. But let's rewind, because her story began a long way from the southern paradise of Maybury. Let's spill the tea on Aneta Corsaut's humble beginnings before she became a household name. Born on November the 3rd, 1933, in the sleepy town of Hutchinson, Kansas, Aneta wasn't just another pretty face. Her road to stardom was paved with serious book smarts and a burning ambition to make it big. She didn't just rely on luck, she hit the books hard at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. Enrolled in the drama department, she spent her days grinding away in a high-pressure academic environment, determined to master every trick of the trade. But here is where the plot thickens. She made a shocking, rebellious move by dropping out right before snatching that diploma. Why the sudden exit? She was absolutely consumed by a hunger to act full-time and wasn't willing to wait another second to start her reign. This massive leap of faith dragged her all the way to the concrete jungle of New York City, where she dove headfirst into the cutthroat shark tank of the entertainment industry, fighting for scraps in a landscape that chews up emerging talent. By 1955, Aneta finally broke through the noise, making her screen debut on an episode of the anthology series Producers Showcase, marking the moment she officially stepped into the living rooms of America. Fast forward a few years, and she really grabbed the headlines with a juicy role in the 1958 sci-fi horror flick, The Blob. This movie became an absolute cult legend, mostly because it featured the bad boy himself, Steve McQueen, in his big screen debut. Now, get this, rumours were flying that she and McQueen were heating things up off-screen too. They played lovers in the movie, and that electric chemistry was just a teaser of the magnetism Aneta was ready to unleash on Hollywood. This blockbuster moment helped skyrocket her profile, proving to the casting directors that she could handle everything from screaming in horror to intense drama. Her climb to the top was a slow burn, but incredibly promising, dotted with a string of television guest spots and cameos that proved she was a versatile force to be reckoned with. Every single gig was a chance to sharpen her claws, balancing a sweet warmth with an underlying steeliness that would soon become her trademark vibe. By the time the swinging 60s rolled around, Aneta was primed for the big leagues, eventually catching the wandering eyes of the producers behind the massive hit, The Andy Griffith Show. Her wholesome Kansas backstory was a dead ringer for the character's history, making her the ultimate natural fit for the role that would essentially immortalise her career. But before she became America's sweetheart, her gritty experiences in theatre and film had toughened her up for the drama that comes with a hit TV show. Here is a spooky little insider detail. Not only did Aneta mirror the character's roots perfectly, But she also coincidentally shared the exact same birthday day and year as the already established heartthrob Ken Berry. These tiny, almost romantic twists of fate were like cosmic signs pointing to her future in the inner circle and the very soul of the series. When the cameras rolled, her acting style, brutally honest yet gentle, was exactly the magic ingredient the show was desperate for. She wasn't your cookie-cutter starlet, she was a different breed of actress, entirely standing out from the legions of Hollywood clones. She was independent, whip-smart, and totally fearless, plotting her career path with precision. But acting wasn't the only thing cooking in her brilliant mind. Believe it or not, she was also diving into other creative hustles like co-authoring the Mystery Reader's Quiz book, a project that showed off her obsession with whodunits and her razor-sharp wits. This intellectual curiosity set her miles apart from many of her contemporaries who were just focused on the glitz and glam. It painted a portrait of a woman who was eager to probe deep into different subjects, refusing to be just another pretty prop. That rich, complex personality would later become a massive weapon for the character of Helen Crump, making viewers feel a deep personal connection to her. Her background in the theatre gave her a rock-solid foundation that she leveraged perfectly for her television dominance. She had an uncanny ability to express difficult, messy feelings in subtle ways, making her the go-to pick for roles that needed real soul rather than just superficial charm. Her secret power was the capacity to win over the audience, quietly sneaking into their hearts before they even realised they were hooked. Plus, the bold move from the prestigious New York stage to the glitzy chaos of Los Angeles television showed she had both the flexibility and the hustle to survive. It was obvious to everyone watching that she viewed her career as a grueling marathon, not just a quick sprint for 15 minutes of fame. Now let's talk about the heat on set. The screen chemistry between Helen Crump and Andy Taylor captivated audiences in a way that very few TV power couples ever could. Aneta Corsaut strutted onto the Andy Griffith Show during its third season and immediately shook things up. She took on the role of Helen Crump, the town's schoolteacher in the fictional hamlet of Maybury, but she played it with a unique flair. Her arrival was a game changer because her character became Andy Taylor's main squeeze, marking a huge shift from the revolving door of short-term flings that had littered the series before. Helen was portrayed as brilliant, sincere and kind-hearted, essentially the perfect match for Andy's unwavering moral compass. This dynamic gave the show a brand new emotional heartbeat and expanded its appeal way beyond just those quaint small-town giggles. The role allowed Aneta to inject her own personal warmth and subtle charm into Helen, breathing real life into the script. She refused to be just a background love interest. She was a respected pillar of the community who commanded attention. Helen's job as a schoolteacher struck a chord with the viewers, adding a layer of genuine depth to Maybury's picture-perfect slice of Americana. Audiences fell head over heels for her character's integrity and her genuine affection for Andy, turning their relationship into one of the most obsessed-over elements of the show. Her presence was the classy touch that tempered the sometimes rougher edges of the town's quirky inhabitants with grace and serious intelligence. As their characters got serious and the romance deepened, the show's storytelling matured perfectly, balancing the laughs with moments of true tenderness and insight. It all culminated in the ultimate fan service, Helen Crump's marriage proposal and the eventual wedding extravaganza to Andy Taylor in the spin-off Maybury RFD. This wasn't just a plot point. It symbolised the couple's unbreakable connection and the massive emotional investment from the fans. Unlike the fleeting romances of the past, Helen remained the constant rock, bringing a sense of maturity and seriousness to Andy's private life that the show desperately needed. This massive shift in the storyline didn't just showcase the character's impressive evolution, but it was also exactly what the hungry audience was screaming for: real, grounded drama in their primetime slot. Critics and obsessed fans were absolutely living for Aneta's performance, constantly raving about how she brought this undeniable magnetic charm and effortless natural vibe that totally stole the spotlight from the rest of the ensemble. Helen's squeaky clean proper image was a stark dramatic contrast to the parade of casual flings Andy had entertained before making her stand out as the ultimate good girl. She wasn't just passing through, she was carving out her territory as the comforting maternal figure that the idyllic, picture-perfect town didn't know it desperately needed. That genuine, heartfelt earnestness she projected was the perfect match for the show's signature gentle humour and those cosy, heartwarming vibes that kept viewers hooked. The fact that this character became such a massive icon is absolute proof of Aneta's powerhouse talent effortlessly juggling raw vulnerability with a steel-spined strength on camera. Let's be real, the chemistry between Aneta and Andy Griffith off camera was so electric and intense that when the cameras rolled, their romance wasn't just acting, it was sizzling hot and felt suspiciously real to everyone watching. That undeniable spark wasn't just the secret sauce behind the show's massive ratings explosion. It was the exact reason producers couldn't stop writing scenes pairing these two lovebirds together. Helen Crump transformed from a simple role into a character so universally adored that she reached full-blown celebrity status, a legend in her own right. And you better believe a huge part of that success came from Aneta pouring her real-life hidden emotions into the role, staying true to feelings that were bubbling just beneath the surface. The public's obsession with this power couple blurred the lines between reality and fantasy until they were razor thin, making their scripted partnership feel like a sneak peek into their private diaries. Helen was also stepping up as the ultimate symbol of stability and the face of modern womanhood for television during the swinging 1960s. She was a boss, a professional woman who was fiercely independent yet unapologetically in love, challenging the dusty stereotypes of the era while looking fabulous doing it. Yet she managed to pull this off while still keeping things traditional enough to not scare away the conservative viewers walking a delicate tightrope of public opinion. This fascinating duality turned her character into a universal icon that could be embraced by a massive chunk of the audience, skyrocketing the show's cultural footprint to legendary levels. As the town's schoolteacher, Helen wasn't just a pretty face. She was emphasising hard-hitting themes of education and community spirit. And wouldn't you know it, those happened to be the very pillars supporting the massive popularity of the Andy Griffith Show empire. Aside from slaying the role of Helen Crump in the original run, Aneta kept the magic alive by playing the character in various spin-offs and nostalgic reunion specials, cementing her place in history. Thanks to these iconic appearances, the character of Helen refused to fade away, staying vibrant and alive in American pop culture for decades after the main show wrapped. For the die-hard fans who had been tracking every look and touch of their romance, the on-screen wedding in Maybury RFD was the television event of the century, a splendid payoff. It was Aneta's warm, familiar return to the character that breathed new life into the franchise, ensuring the show's legacy would survive and thrive. She carried that torch through times of massive cultural changes, proving that some legends are truly timeless. But the fairy tale story of Helen and Andy opened a door to more than just wholesome entertainment. It was the gateway to the hush-hush secret chapters of Aneta Corsaut's life that we are about to tear open. When it came to the behind-the-scenes dynamics, let's just say the steamy romance between Aneta Corsaut and Andy Griffith wasn't nearly as covert as they probably hoped. While the pair worked tirelessly to keep their illicit relationship out of the tabloids, plenty of cast and crew members were quietly clocking every lingering glance and secret smile. You know how Hollywood sets are, they operate like tiny gossip-fueled villages where whispers travel faster than light, and their affair quickly became the industry's worst-kept open secret. But surprisingly, rather than causing backstage drama or toxic resentment, the affair seemed to create a weird sort of camaraderie among the crew who were witnessing their stolen, intimate moments. The tight-knit nature of the production team meant it was practically impossible for Andy and Aneta to maintain total stealth mode with their feelings on display. Yet the vibe on set remained strangely supportive, with everyone seemingly rooting for them instead of passing judgment on their clandestine activities. One absolutely hilarious story floating around involves a cheeky prank pulled by the crew to catch them red-handed during one of their secret meetings. Knowing exactly when and where Andy and Aneta were planning to rendezvous for some alone time, a young assistant was sent in disguised as a waiter to deliver a romantic meal. The stunt was intended as a light-hearted "we see you" joke, but it reportedly caught Andy completely off guard and left him more than a little displeased at being exposed. This little incident perfectly illustrates the strange mix of playful teasing and high-stakes tension that surrounded their forbidden affair every single day. It also paints a picture of a workplace where, despite the heavy secrets hanging in the air, the spirit of teamwork and fun still managed to reign supreme. However, this constant rumour mill kept their affair from ever being truly private, adding a layer of serious strain to an already delicate and complicated situation. The actors' lives were totally saturated with the tension of managing public scrutiny while dealing with their intense private longing, both when the cameras were rolling and when they cut. Since the couple's real-life feelings were so hopelessly intertwined, they constantly had to worry about the interpretations of their colleagues and the hungry audience lurking just outside their personal bubbles. It was virtually impossible to keep their professional and personal worlds separate when they were working in each other's pockets day in and day out. Honestly, it would be hard to imagine any scene between Helen and Andy that wasn't heavily coloured by the deep, genuine familiarity stemming from their real-life attraction. The interplay of their powerful, raw feelings clashing with the scripted dynamic of the show was a major factor. It contributed heavily to the messy, fascinating complexity of the actors' personal interactions behind closed doors. The intense bond between them was a silent force that imposed a crushing pressure to maintain professionalism, no matter how heated things got. To anyone paying attention, they were evidently having a full-blown affair. Yet both of them swore up and down that their commitment to the show's quality was ironclad, refusing to let the drama tank the ratings. Ultimately, it was their mutual respect that allowed them to work together so smoothly that their personal chaos was hardly noticed on screen, a true testament to their star power. The crew and co-workers could sense the electricity in the air, and they often whispered their amazement at the couple's uncanny ability to keep their messy private drama completely separate from the grind of production. You have to admit that level of icy professionalism is a rare commodity in Hollywood. In fact, it probably played the single biggest role in keeping the show at the top of the ratings charts, even while their personal lives were secretly spiralling out of control. But as the seasons rolled on, the most heartbreaking part of this backstage saga was Andy Griffith's desperate, serious intentions clashing with Aneta's gentle but firm pushback. We are talking about the ultimate commitment here, folks, marriage proposals. Andy Griffith's feelings for Aneta Corsaut were way more intense than just a fleeting on-set fling. He was head over heels envisioning a permanent future with her, and he wasn't shy about making his move. According to the juiciest on-set rumours, Andy actually got down on one knee and asked Aneta to be his wife no less than 3 separate times during their torrid affair. Every single proposal screamed of a man obsessed, revealing not just his devotion but a desperate yearning to legitimise their complicated shadow relationship in the eyes of the world. And yet, despite his power, his charm and his relentless persistence, Aneta shut him down cold every single time, a choice that added layers of mystery to their already tangled bond. Why she would reject TV's golden boy remains a mystery she took to the grave, though it has sparked endless speculation and gossip among fans for decades. The leading theory that insiders bet on is that Aneta was terrified of the stigma, fearing she would be branded as the homewrecker who destroyed Andy's picture-perfect family life. Remember, at the time, the man was still legally hitched with kids at home, and the public backlash from a scandal like that would have been an absolute career-ending nightmare. Aneta's refusal might have been a noble sacrifice motivated by a fierce desire to shield both herself and Andy from the inevitable scandal and public heartbreak that would follow. It is worth noting that she reportedly never married anyone at any point in her life, which signals a serious personal commitment to her own freedom and independence. Or perhaps she simply had a deep-seated reluctance to be boxed into the traditional housewife roles that society tried to force upon women of her era. This bold choice speaks volumes about her self-respect and the values she refused to compromise. But amazingly, despite turning down his proposals, the bond between them remained bulletproof. Their burning affection didn't dissolve into toxic bitterness or awkward distance. Instead, it evolved into a beautiful, lasting friendship that defied the odds. Even after the romantic affair fizzled out, Aneta and Andy continued to work together like pros, supporting each other personally through all of life's ups and downs. This bizarre and unusual dynamic is a testament to the fact that their connection went way deeper than just a typical fleeting Hollywood romance narrative. The sheer strength of their platonic friendship reveals that true love can take many wild forms, even when it completely defies conventional expectations. Andy Griffith's 3 desperate proposals paint a picture of a man who was deeply, hopelessly in love. But let's be real, he was also probably longing for a simple legal resolution to a very messy, complicated situation that was eating him up inside. The overwhelming difficulties that confronted their relationship were not enough to drive Griffith away from Aneta. He was like a moth to a flame. On the other hand, Aneta saying no over and over is the sign of a savvy woman who was well aware of the dangerous intricacies and was willing to deal with them strictly on her own terms. Though these two shared the same intense love, they took contrasting but strangely complementary approaches to handling the fire. It was a clash of his unfaltering romantic hope versus her sharp, prudent knowledge of self and reality. That underlying tension didn't just spice up their lives, it enriched their story and added a layer of raw, emotional nuance to their artistic collaboration that you just can't fake. Aneta's lifelong decision to stay single was probably a major factor in how colleagues and fans viewed the scandalous nature of Andy and Aneta's affair when the truth finally leaked. Think about it, the screen character Helen Crump was a sweet school teacher who marries Andy Taylor in a storybook ending. This was a stark, fascinating contrast to Aneta's off-screen decision to stay single and never tie the knot with anyone. That massive contrast may have contributed to why she wanted very much to keep her private life locked away from the public eye, preventing her real self from being overshadowed by her TV persona. Aneta's life acts as a massive reality check, reminding us that the characters people admire so much on the silver screen are just illusions. The actors behind them sometimes live separate, equally complex and often painful realities that the audience knows nothing about. As their partnership evolved through personal drama and professional milestones, Aneta Corsaut's story continued to unfold far beyond the limits of Maybury's fictional streets. Let's talk about the aftermath, their later collaborations, and that unbreakable friendship that survived despite the complexities of their past. Aneta Corsaut and Andy Griffith maintained a close and enduring friendship that miraculously outlasted their secret, steamy romance. Even years after their affair ended, they continued to cross paths professionally, teaming up on several projects and keeping the magic alive. Their ability to stay connected both publicly and privately speaks to a deep, soulful bond that transcended simple romantic love. It was a rare companionship marked by mutual respect, absolute trust, and a shared history of secrets that neither could erase or wanted to sever. Aneta even reprised her beloved role as Helen Crump several times, showing up for the big revival projects without hesitation. She was there for the 1986 blockbuster film Return to Maybury and the nostalgic 1993 Andy Griffith Show reunion. Each time they reunited on screen, the warmth and familiarity between them were undeniable to the fans who cherished their characters' love story. Despite the decades that had passed, their chemistry remained completely intact, suggesting a comfort level that only comes from close friendship and shared life experience. These emotional reunions reassured audiences that the connection between Helen and Andy was more than just scripted romance written by a room of writers. It was rooted in a messy, beautiful reality. It wasn't just the old Mayberry magic keeping them connected, folks. Their professional entanglement stretched all the way into the glitzy 1980s on the legal drama Matlock, where Andy was the big cheese, starring as the iconic Ben Matlock. And, you know, Aneta wasn't going to miss out on the action. She popped up as 3 completely different characters during the show's long run, eventually landing the recurring gig of Judge Cynthia Justin. Even though they were playing strangers on screen, insiders could tell that their sizzling off-screen history added a layer of undeniable tension and electricity to their performances that you just can't fake. This constant collaboration was proof that they knew how to play the game, prioritising their undeniable chemistry and artistry over any messy leftover drama from their romantic past. Let's be real, this cosy post-affair partnership was totally bizarre by Tinseltown standards, where most exes are busy dodging each other at parties. In the cutthroat world of Hollywood, these intense flings usually crash and burn, ending in bitter silence or permanent estrangement, not contract renewals. But Aneta and Andy, they flipped the script, evolving from hush-hush lovers into respected colleagues, and rumour has it, the kind of trusted friends who knew all each other's secrets. It takes a serious amount of emotional maturity and maybe a little bit of nerve to separate a passionate personal history from the professional grind, but they pulled it off with style. Their vibe sent a quiet but screamingly powerful message to the industry about loyalty and deep connections surviving even when life throws some crazy curveballs. Fans absolutely devoured these reunion glimpses, treating them like the secret, juicy continuation of the love story they had been obsessed with for decades. It gave the people exactly what they wanted, the ultimate Mayberry power couple back in the frame, even if it was just for a few fleeting scenes compared to the glory days. However, the real tea was brewing behind the cameras, where their bond was profound, dark and unconventional, honouring a connection that defied all the standard rules of engagement. They were each other's ride or die through the wildest storms and the highest peaks of their personal lives and rollercoaster careers. It just goes to show that some relationships in this town are too complicated and spicy to be slapped with a simple label like friend or ex. Their saga flies in the face of those typical tragic Hollywood tales where love is lost, forgotten, or buried under a pile of tabloids. Watching them later on, you could sense the genuine sorrow creeping in, especially as the heartbreaking reality of Aneta's deteriorating health began to take its toll. But Andy Griffith didn't pull a disappearing act. He was her rock, stepping up with incredible kindness to take care of her right until the bitter end. This wasn't just a showmance. They formed an unbreakable bond that survived the decades, lasting deep into the 1990s. And if that doesn't scream soulmates, nothing does it pointed to a personal commitment that went way deeper than any scripted romance we saw on TV. This enduring friendship is a tear-jerking example of how messy, complicated love can intertwine with friendship to create something that actually lasts. But don't get it twisted. While their later years were full of deep companionship, Aneta Corsaut was a powerhouse on her own, with a career that proved she was way more than just Andy's favourite co-star. So let's dive into the untold story of Aneta's life when she stepped out of Andy Griffith's shadow. Aneta Corsaut's hustle extended way beyond her iconic sweet role as Helen Crump, proving she was a versatile actress ready to devour diverse and edgy projects. Once the cameras finally stopped rolling on the Andy Griffith Show and its endless parade of spin-offs, she didn't just fade away. Aneta booked gigs in notable films and television series that really showed off her range, proving she wasn't a one-trick pony. She even snagged a memorable spot in Mel Brooks's legendary 1974 comedy Blazing Saddles, holding her ground against some of the funniest heavyweights in Hollywood history. That role was a total mic drop moment, showcasing her killer comedic timing and her ability to switch genres faster than a celebrity changes spouses. On the TV front, Aneta locked down a steady paycheck with a regular role in the medical sitcom House Calls, which kept her on screens from 1979 to 1983. She slipped into the uniform of head nurse Bradley, rubbing elbows and sharing scenes with Wayne Rogers, the heartthrob from the show MASH. The show was a decent hit lasting 3 seasons, and it gave Aneta the perfect excuse to ditch the sweet school teacher persona and show a little more grit. House Calls proved she could adapt to the flashy, evolving television landscape of the 1980s without getting left in the dust. Aneta stayed hungry, taking on guest roles and one-off appearances throughout the 1980s to make sure her face remained a staple in the entertainment world. We're talking appearances on gritty shows like Adam 12 and others that added some serious variety to her acting portfolio. Every single role added another layer of dimension to her career, keeping the critics and the fans guessing. It underscored her fearless willingness to tackle new challenges and play different character types, refusing to play it safe. Brick by brick, she built a body of work that screamed multi-talented actress, proving she was capable of so much more than the role that first made her a household name. And get this, her creativity wasn't limited to the screen. She actually decided to conquer the literary world too. She co-authored the Mystery Reader's Quiz book, a must-have compendium for all those obsession-worthy mystery novel fans who wanted to test their smarts. She teamed up with children's writer Muff Singer and her actor pal Robert Wagner, creating a book that flaunted her intellectual curiosity and genuine love for literature. It revealed a totally different side of Aneta's personality, one that loved engaging with audiences and sparking a little interactive fun beyond the camera lens. Her wide-ranging interests were all over the map, proving she had passions both inside and outside the acting bubble. These ventures revealed a woman who was fiercely self-supporting and persistent, chasing her various passions without waiting for permission. Aneta absolutely refused to settle for being typecast or shoved into a box limited to just one famous role. On the contrary, she used her skills to craft a career that was as diverse as it was secure, always hunting for the next creative outlet to sink her teeth into. That relentless approach, combined with her undeniable talent, is exactly why she wasn't just a one-dimensional celebrity, but a full-fledged respected actress on TV. Sure, everyone recognises her face from the wholesome streets of Maybury, but to pin her down to just that one gig is a crime. She was a chameleon who fearlessly stared down the changing face of Hollywood and evolved right alongside the cutthroat industry. When you actually analyse the performances of Aneta Corsaut, you aren't just seeing an actress reading lines. You are witnessing a razor-sharp underlying intelligence that simmered beneath the surface of every character she played. She possessed a wicked wit and a cerebral edge that frankly left most of her contemporaries in the dust, elevating her way above the typical crowd of starlets vying for attention. It wasn't just the fans who adored her. Insiders whispered about her legendary poise, and she earned massive respect from fellow artists for her ability to maintain total elegance even in the most high-pressure, tension-filled situations on set. Aneta's reputation wasn't confined to the fictional borders of a television screen. Her aura permeated the real world, reaching far beyond her roles to touch people in ways few actors ever managed to achieve. That off-screen magnetism demanded respect, ensuring that her name carried serious weight in executive offices and casting rooms throughout her decades-long run in the spotlight. While we all love reminiscing about her most iconic role, we need to peel back the layers to uncover the full dramatic scope of her life, celebrating her meaningful career alongside the tragedy of Aneta Corsaut's untimely death and lasting legacy. The world stopped spinning for a moment when Aneta Corsaut's life was cruelly cut short by cancer in 1995, a devastating blow that left millions of adoring fans and shattered colleagues mourning a light that went out far too soon. Before the curtain fell, she graced us with her presence for a final run of performances during the early 1990s, proving she still had that magic touch right up until the end. It was a bittersweet nostalgia trip when she returned for the 1992 Andy Griffith Show reunion, and fans were absolutely living for her guest spots on Matlock, where she reunited with old flames and friends. While she never had children of her own to carry on the family name, she birthed a legacy in television history that is arguably more enduring, embedding herself permanently into the hearts of viewers across generations. When the news of her passing broke, the obituaries didn't just list her as Helen Crump. They eulogized a woman of immense grace, raw talent, and an indefinable charm that she injected into every single project she touched. But the person who took it the hardest was undoubtedly Andy Griffith. He was her longtime co-star, and if the rumours are true, her romantic partner, leaving him absolutely devastated by her departure. Their dynamic was a roller coaster of passion and complications that weathered storms most couples couldn't survive. Yet somehow they managed to salvage a profound friendship that lasted until her very last breath. Griffith's unshakable respect and deep affection for Aneta hinted at a connection that went way deeper than what the tabloids knew, a bond forged in the fires of Hollywood secrecy. Losing her didn't just leave a gaping hole in Andy's personal life. It created a void in the entire television landscape that had fallen in love with their on-screen chemistry and off-screen mystique. Whether you are talking about the script or the scandal sheets, their connection remains the stuff of legend, resonating in pop culture as one of the great untold love stories. It stands as a heartbreaking, beautiful reminder that love and commitment don't always look like a fairy tale, but they are powerful and enduring in all their many forms. But let's not get stuck in Mayberry. Aneta was rubbing elbows with absolute titans like Steve McQueen and Marion Ross, cementing her status as a player who was woven into the very fabric of Hollywood history. Get this, she starred opposite the king of cool himself, Steve McQueen, in the cult classic The Blob, which was a debut for both of them, and rumour has it, the chemistry wasn't just acting, they were reportedly an item off camera too. She also shared the spotlight with the legendary Marion Ross on the Gertrude Berg Show back in the swinging early 1960s, long before Ross became the mom everyone wished they had. These heavy-hitting connections prove she wasn't a one-trick pony. She moved in elite circles and tackled a diverse range of roles that showcased just how talented she really was. Now here is where it gets spooky, her casting, as Helen Crump was wrapped in a series of bizarre coincidences that made fans fall in love with her even harder. Believe it or not, both Aneta and her character were Kansas girls at heart, and she shared an exact birthday and birth year with her castmate Ken Berry, which is wild to think about. These little cosmic winks added unexpected layers of charm to her performance, making it feel like she was destined to be part of that ensemble from the very start. Audiences didn't just watch a character. They connected with Aneta's soul as her real-life background blended so seamlessly with the fictional world of Mayberry that you couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. But forget the scripts for a second, Aneta's real-life persona was infinitely more fascinating and complex than any character she ever played on television. She was a true Renaissance woman, incredibly strong-willed, fiercely independent, and possessed of a curiosity that kept her constantly exploring new avenues. She wasn't just reading lines, she was writing them too famously, co-authoring a quiz book for mystery buffs alongside children's writer Muff Singer and heartthrob actor Robert Wagner. This little side venture peeled back the curtain to reveal a woman who was dedicated to entertaining the masses through literature and interactive fun, not just standing in front of a camera. It paints a picture of a woman who was obsessed with learning and creativity, proving she had a life and a brain that extended far beyond the blinding glare of the studio lights. Even as the decades rolled on, she didn't slow down. Her professional hustle throughout the 1980s and beyond was honestly exhausting just to look at. She took charge as head nurse Bradley in the sitcom House Calls and popped up all over the dial with guest spots on massive hits like Adam 12, keeping her face in front of the public. These gigs weren't just paychecks, they were proof of her incredible range and her willingness to evolve, ensuring she stayed relevant while the television landscape shifted beneath her feet. Let's be real though, her massive headline-grabbing partnership with Andy Griffith often cast a giant shadow that threatened to eclipse her own light. Yet, despite that, she managed to carve out her own renown, relying on sheer professionalism and a dazzling array of roles to make sure the world knew her name on its own terms. Every character she tackled expanded her reach and added depth to her portfolio. Aneta Corsaut's life was a beautiful, messy blend of raw talent, hidden complexity, and a quiet strength that few understood. From her iconic role in Mayberry to a secret lifetime romance that happened behind closed doors, her story is a stark reminder that in Hollywood, the truest connections are often the ones you don't see coming. If you love this deep dive into the scandalous and remarkable journey of Aneta Corsaut as much as we did, don't just sit there. Smash that like button and hit subscribe right now so you never miss out on the juiciest, most fascinating secrets from TV history.